Many of you guys have asked me exactly how am I capable of growing so many orchids outdoors. Well, in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I manage, and I'm also going to share with you some tips just in case you're also thinking of doing the same. And one of the main reasons I'm capable of growing orchids outdoors is the simple fact that I do live in Florida. And as you guys know, Florida is just a prime spot where we have great weather condition and also climate to grow our orchids outdoors. And speaking of growing our orchids in Florida, just want to give a brief shout out to all of my Floridian growers. Want to say hello to Todd Tropicals, also John Benedict, Sharon Short, Blanca, and also Anna. So if you guys want more information on how others grow their orchids outdoors, those are some channels you do want to check out. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you some of the varieties of orchids that I do grow outdoors so you can get some idea of what types of orchids grow well for me. And as you can see, I do have many varieties of Vandaceous orchids. And you will actually find Vandaceous orchids hanging throughout my garden, because indeed the Vandaceous orchids do so well in this type of climate and outdoors. And you will also find cluttered throughout my garden many different types and varieties of these Dendrobium orchids. You'll also find many Cattleyas, some that are mounted, and many that just like to hang out in my tree. I have some Oncidium types, Grammatophyllum, and also some vanilla. And there's a Densiflorum, and if we take a look right here, there's a Cymbidium and also a Bulbophyllum, a Stanhopea, and here's a Catasetum. And right here we have some Epidendrums growing right in my tree. And those are just some, to name a few. Okay, so now that you know the types and varieties of some of the orchids that I can grow outdoors, let's talk about exactly why I can grow them outdoors. And the key element, the truth of the matter is, the reason why I am capable of having my orchid garden at all is for the simple fact that I have this huge, magnificent orchid tree. And I want to tell you guys the story of how I came to have this tree, but I'm just going to go ahead and point you to the link where we did focus on this tree. I told you a very inspirational story that I want to make sure that I share with you guys, so click on that link if you didn't see that video. But indeed, this is the main reason why I'm capable of having this orchid garden to begin with, and the reason why my orchid garden even exists at all. And with that being said, it should be noted that in order for us to grow our orchids outdoors, we definitely are going to need some protection against that full sun that can really damage our orchids. And for me, it is this wonderful orchid tree that acts as a barrier so that my orchids will not get full and direct sunlight. And the way lighting works in my garden is that during certain portions of the day, my orchids will actually get different levels of light. But majority of times it will get bright or dappled sunlight throughout my orchid garden. Now there are certain portions of the day where some of my orchids do get direct sunlight. But the good news here, folks, the sunlight is not in excessive and it's not for a long duration of the day. And I also make sure that the orchids that do get direct sunlight, that they can indeed handle and tolerate the sun, and it's not going to do any harm to the orchids, like these Vandaceous orchids right here. So the main important thing when it comes to receiving enough sunlight is indeed positioning your orchids where they will receive the proper accommodations and exactly what they need. Now there is something that I definitely made sure I put in place when I created my orchid garden. At the lower portion of my tree, you will see a dense population of vegetation, all sorts of plants, and you can see that it is just highly populated and very bushy in this area. And because it is so congested with all sorts of plants and all around the tree, what this does is when I water my plants, this acts as a sponge where it actually absorbs and retains the moisture for a lot longer and throughout the day. So as you can see, I have my orchids intermingled within the lower portions of this tree where that moisture is really going to be retained, and they're going to be able to enjoy the moisture for a longer amount of time. And as the day heats up and the temperature rises, well, so does the moisture. I have this tree again, magnificent tree, that acts as an umbrella. And it actually allows the moisture to circulate within this central area. Again, retaining that moisture for my orchids. And if we look around my garden, you will also see taller shrubs and plants and bushes throughout my garden. And they act as a vegetative wall in which they are a barrier from the excessive wind and also helps with the moisture retention again. And as we walk around my garden, you will see exactly what I mean by a vegetative wall. I have grew a vegetative fortress in which it guards and it protects my orchids. And I have really selected plants that grow rather quickly and rather rapidly. Plants that will grow and flourish and thrive and grow very tall and bushy so that they can indeed serve their purpose. So with all of my very tall and lush vegetation and plants that I do surround my orchid garden with, that is my form and my method to my moisture retention, in which here in the central portion of my garden, which is where my garden tree is that houses all of my orchids, this central area right here. That is basically where majority of that moisture is retained. Because again, with all of these tall, lush plants throughout my garden acting as a wall of protection, and then as we go up, you are seeing this huge tree, an umbrella of a tree, as a matter of fact, that also holds in the moisture right here. And if we take a look up there, high above in my tree, you will see that tillandsias and air plants have begun to grow naturally in my tree. And that is actually a key indicator that there are high levels of moisture in the area. So that moisture is centralized within this area where my orchids are growing. And another way that you can perhaps provide extra moisture for your outdoor grow space, you could always install either a water fountain or even create a small man-made pond, something where extra moisture can actually be derived from. With so many orchids, how do I manage to fertilize? Well, I take the lazy way out, folks. That right there is my fertilizer tea bags, and if you guys did not see that video in which I show you how to create these tea bags, you can click right here on the link and it'll take you right to that video. But yes, indeed, these are the tea bags that I use, which I fill those bags up with that slow release fertilizer that's good for 3 to 6 months, and voila, ta-da, all done here, folks. Because whenever it rains or whenever I water my orchids, it will also get fertilized. But not only that, we are outdoors, so I do get assistance from the animals that are around us, such as your birds and perhaps your lizards and your frogs that also help with the fertilization process as well. And I'm not going to go into exact detail, but you guys use your imagination. Now, if you don't want to use these fertilizer tea bags, but you still want an easy way to fertilize your orchids, well, you definitely can by using this fertilizer mechanism that actually attaches to your hose, in which the fertilizer will be diluted into the water whenever you spray your orchids down. So how do I water my orchid garden? Well, in some cases, Mother Nature actually provides rainwater for my orchids. But in some cases, I actually have to manually do it. And it's as simple as 1, 2, 3. There you go. That simple, folks. And there you have it, folks. Now you know exactly what enables me to grow my orchids outdoors. Now, if you guys are also growing your orchids outdoors and have some suggestions and tips that you would like to share, we sure would appreciate it, because the more that we know, the more that we can grow. And we need all the help that we can get. So please be sure to post those comments below. And I thank you guys so much for tuning in to yet another episode of My Orchid Adventures. And if you like this video, please be sure to give it a green thumbs up, like, share, and also subscribe. Also join me on Facebook at My Orchid Adventures. I thank you guys so much. And as you already know, I do truly love and appreciate you guys all. Mwah.